On April 26, 1986, in northern Ukraine, near the city of Pripyat, a nuclear disaster occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. At that time, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, a powerful country that controlled many regions across Eastern Europe. The plant, which was located about 80 miles north of Kiev, was built to produce electricity for nearby cities and factories. Nuclear power, a form of energy created by splitting atoms, was considered efficient and modern. However, this technology also required careful control, because mistakes could lead to serious consequences. On the night of the accident, workers inside Reactor 4 were conducting a safety test to see how the reactor would behave during a power loss. This test, which was supposed to improve safety, instead created the conditions for disaster. The combination of human decisions and design flaws led to a situation that quickly became uncontrollable. In the early morning hours, at 1:23 a.m., the reactor suddenly became unstable. Because the operators had reduced the reactor's power too quickly, the system entered a dangerous state. As a result of this instability, the reactor produced an unexpected surge of energy. Within seconds, a powerful explosion tore apart the reactor building. The force of the blast lifted the heavy concrete lid and exposed the radioactive core inside. Immediately after the explosion, fires broke out across the plant. Burning graphite, a material inside the reactor, released radioactive particles into the air. These invisible particles, which contained harmful radiation, began spreading into the surrounding environment. At first, many workers did not fully understand the severity of the situation, because radiation cannot be seen, smelled, or touched. This invisibility made the danger especially deceptive. Within minutes, firefighters arrived at the scene. Without knowing the full risk, they climbed onto the damaged building to extinguish the flames. These individuals, who showed extraordinary courage, were exposed to extremely high levels of radiation. As they worked, their bodies absorbed invisible damage that would later cause severe illness. Over the next several hours, radioactive material continued rising into the atmosphere. Winds carried this contamination across Ukraine, Belarus, and into other parts of Europe. Meanwhile, in the nearby city of Pripyat, residents continued their normal routines. Children played outside, and families walked through the streets, unaware of the invisible threat surrounding them. The following day, on April 27, government officials ordered the evacuation of Pripyat. Buses arrived in the afternoon, and residents were told to leave their homes temporarily. Because people believed they would return soon, many left their belongings behind. In reality, the evacuation became permanent. The city, once filled with life, was suddenly abandoned. In the weeks that followed, thousands of workers, known as liquidators, were sent to contain the disaster. These workers removed radioactive debris, buried contaminated materials, and constructed a large concrete structure around the damaged reactor. This structure, called a sarcophagus, was designed to limit further release of radiation. Their efforts reduced the spread of contamination, but many of these individuals suffered long-term health effects as a result of their exposure. The Chernobyl disaster represents one of the most significant technological failures in human history. It demonstrated the consequences of human error, poor communication, and unsafe design. Because safety warnings were ignored and proper procedures were not followed, a preventable accident became a global catastrophe. This event also revealed the importance of responsibility in the use of powerful technology. Nuclear energy, while capable of producing large amounts of electricity, requires strict safety systems and honest communication. The delayed response and lack of immediate transparency increased the harm and allowed radiation to spread further. Today, Chernobyl remains a powerful reminder of both human vulnerability and human courage. The bravery of the firefighters and workers, who acted despite the unknown danger, showed extraordinary sacrifice. At the same time, the disaster continues to influence safety regulations, scientific research, and public understanding of nuclear power. The abandoned city of Pripyat stands as a silent symbol of the disaster's lasting impact. Although the explosion lasted only seconds, its consequences continued decades later. This historical event demonstrates that technological progress must always be guided by responsibility, caution, and respect for human life.